Let's get into some of the small cap news. Amaero International recently announcing that Export-Import Bank of the US approved a direct loan of around $23.5 million. Olivia Grace Curran spoke to the CEO, Hank Holland, to discuss.
Yesterday, Amaero announced that we have recently received unanimous approval from the Export-Import Bank of the United States for a $23.5 million US, or approximately $38 million Australian loan to finance important capital equipment.
And so, Hank, what does this mean? What will you use the loan for?
So the purpose of the loan, we relocated the business from Australia to Tennessee in the USA, July of 2023. We've established the largest capacity production, US domestic production, for refractory and high temperature alloy powders such as titanium that are used in additive manufacturing. The proceeds of the loan will be used to build out our facility and specifically for the purchase of capital equipment.
And Hank, tell me a bit about the process of obtaining this loan. I understand it started in 2024?
Yeah, we actually began the discussions in January of 2024. Export-Import Bank has a very important program called Make More in America initiative, and it's specifically directed at shoring up and reshoring, rebuilding, and improving the resiliency of U.S. domestic manufacturing and supply chain. Moreover, Amaero's strategy specifically was meant to address the most critical gaps in the manufacturing ecosystem and supply chain capabilities in the U.S. We've been working with them, as you mentioned, since January of 2024. This will be the sixth loan that Ex-Im Bank has approved for Make More in America. It will be the very first loan that Ex-Im Bank has approved for advanced materials and additive manufacturing. So a significant event for Amaero that I think further establishes a demand signal, if you will, a signal from the U.S. government that reaffirms and validates Amaero's strategy and its alignment with U.S. policy government initiatives.
And so your products help with components that are critical for the space and aerospace sectors. Can you go into that for us?
Absolutely. And there's two pieces, the advanced material side of that and the advanced manufacturing side. On the advanced material side, these are refractory alloys that are very, very high temperature, such as niobium, hafnium, lithium, tungsten, and so forth. And they're used in applications that require high temperature thermal protection and or very, very hot burning propulsion systems, as you mentioned, such as in defense and space. And moreover, many of these components, the geometry today is such, as well as integrated features are such, it's no longer possible to forge or cast or machine many of these components. They can only be 3D printed. And our powder is essentially the feedstock for that 3D printing manufacturing process.
And your company says its capabilities are quite important to national security and the economic viability of the US.
It's exactly right. And it's the reason that I think we received the support that we did from Ex-Im Bank. It's the reason we've received significant other support from the state of Tennessee, as well as other areas of the US government we're currently working with. In the US today, as you're probably well aware, many issues are very polarizing and there's a lot of partisan divide. This is one of the very few issues, and that is the reindustrialization, the reshoring of these critical industrial capabilities that has absolute bipartisan support. The reason it's got such strong bipartisan support is, as you mentioned, it's both a matter of national security as well as economic policy. Over the last 3 decades, as the US offshored many of these manufacturing capabilities, we destroyed 7.1 million highly skilled, high-paying jobs in the US, manufacturing jobs. Our allies, including Australia and the UK, have done much the same thing. It's an imperative that we reestablish this industrial capability, again, to support national security, but also to improve the economic vibrance of our country.
And Hank, how important are loans like this for companies like yours? And do you expect this to continue with the new presidency going forward?
I think they're very important. And to the latter part of the question, yes. I think you're going to see the Trump administration be very proactive with a sense of urgency, a series of 90-day sprints, and this will be amongst the top policy initiatives that you'll see this administration undertake. the defense industrial base, manufacturing, supply chain, small, medium-sized businesses support in general. And moreover, if you look at broader initiatives, I think you're going to see a lot of support for this as well. So whether it's the executive branch, whether it's Capitol Hill, whether it's Department of Defense, across the scope, I think you'll see a fair amount of support. As it relates to Amaero in this program, it is the entirety of the region. As I said, we are the very first loan to be approved in this area of advanced materials and additive manufacturing. I think that they will amplify, Ex-Im Bank that is, will amplify the transaction with Amaero. I think it will be broadly spoken of in the US as an example of the ways that we can accelerate getting capital to important companies such as Amaero that can advance these initiatives.
And Hank, now that you've got this green tick of approval, where to next?
Well, importantly, we're transitioning to commercial this year. So we relocated the US in July of 2023. We stood up what I believe is the strongest technical and operating team in powder metallurgy in the US. We announced a very important offtake and preferred supply agreement. We qualified C103, our most important material, and now we'll begin shifting to commercialization. So what investors should expect next over the balance of this fiscal year is a series of long-term agreements that we would be a preferred supplier to other customers. Likewise, we would expect much later in this year to wrap up our final capital raise, and now with the Ex-Im loan, we will be fully funded for multiple years to come, and thus achieving the revenue and the EBITDA forecast that analysts have expectations of.